Welcome to Fortunate Woodcraft. Recently a friend of mine asked me to show her how I make handles for my fowls and rasps. On the left are some of the ones that I made the other day before she asked for the video. Those on the right are what I still need to work on. Over time, I've collected a lot of dowels and old broken tool handles, so I decided to use those because they're already roughly the shape I need. If you don't have any cylindrical stock, you'll need to take some square stock and rough it out, though it's a lot easier to find center with a square piece. When I tapped the three files with pointed tangs into place, one of them snapped off, so here I am sharpening what's left into a new tang. The metal is quite hard, so sanding it to shape took a while. In case you're unaware, the harder the steel, the more brittle and likely it is to snap. This is a trade-off with tools. Either you have to sharpen them more if they're soft, or risk chips and other breaks if they're harder. With the round segment of the belt sander, I went ahead and created a concave profile to the tang so that it would stick into the hole a little easier in the handle. Now it's simply a matter of shaping the handles in relation to the files on the disc and belt sander. One of the files that came with the set doesn't have a pointed tang, but instead a rounded end with a hole in it. So I decided to try something a little different, and applied wood to both sides with some Gorilla Glue. You of course can use epoxy, which would probably be a lot less messy, but also you have to deal with the fumes if you do. On top of putting these handles together, I really wanted to set up a more permanent storage block for them. One that, when I move to California, I will attach to a French cleat system. My current shop, however, is woefully lacking in a good spot for that. I'm a really big fan of English chestnut as a stain, so I'm applying it to all of the handles I've made, along with that classic boiled linseed oil, which I'm starting to think makes good sense for hand tools. Here I'm starting the actual tool holder. I'm drilling 8 holes that are just undersized relative to the handle diameter, so that when they're slotted in, the slope of the handle towards the tool will keep it in place. In this case, the spade bit that I'm using is 3/4 of an inch. I flipped the board over to finish drilling the holes so that it wouldn't get as much tear out as if I had drilled the hole all the way through. Next up was using my jigsaw for cutting out the grooves for the tools to slide through before they seat into the holes. One thing to note is that when dealing with salvaged wood, especially softer woods like pine, you're going to have to deal with a lot more repair work than if you went to the store and bought a nice board up front. But honestly, I'd much rather use up material that otherwise would have been thrown away, especially for something completely utilitarian like a tool holder. Next up was routing out a slot for the non-handled file. The router bit I'm using is 1/4 of an inch and fits the thickness of the file quite well. I started out with a very shallow cut and continued adding 1/4 of an inch or so until I got the proper depth. Here on the table saw, I'm ripping the boards to final width. This includes the backer board that will hold the whole thing up on the wall, as well as knocking off a bit of width on both sides of the tool holding piece. During planing, the backer board decided to break along a knot, so I went ahead and made the best of it by creating a matching miter on the other end before gluing and screwing the backer to the tool holder section. Off camera, I took this nail and sanded it down to a shiny pen. I then knocked it into the left side for the file with the odd handle. I think it adds an interesting visual element to the project. So here's the finished project. Nothing fancy, but it serves its purpose well. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about the process. I'm still learning to edit video, so any comments about that would also be greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, hit that like button and subscribe to see more future content.